How do I figure out what's next in my career? How do I align my work with what truly matters to me? And the biggest question of all, can I really design a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I've seen how traditional paths can leave people burned out or boxed in. And I know there's a better way, one that invites you to let go of outdated rules and outside expectations, one that evolves and supports meaningful growth over time. Whether you're feeling stuck, craving more clarity, or ready to expand within your current role and beyond, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to explore practical, modern strategies for building a meaningful, heart-based career. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello and welcome to Season 11 of the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, and I'm so delighted to be here with you today. It is a cold and snowy winter day here in Western New York, and I'm up in my treehouse with a warm cup of coffee and excited to kick off this special 3-part series. We're calling it Your Career Reinvention Roadmap. So in this co-hosted series, my dear friend and collaborator, Jen Pestikas from Brave Women at Work is here, and we're going to explore the emotional, intuitive, and practical sides of career transformation. This is especially for high-achieving professionals who feel called to something more heart-based or more aligned. And Jen and I created this series because we noticed that we were having the same conversations with each other and so many others about that quiet moment when your career just doesn't really fit anymore. This isn't some dramatic blow it all up situation, but it's more of a subtle, persistent thing that you just can't ignore anymore. So across the next 3 episodes, we're going to explore the early signs that it might be time to leave corporate or make another meaningful shift. We'll discuss redefining success in a more heart-based and sustainable way. And then wrap up with the small intentional actions that help you reinvent your career with clarity. You'll hear personal stories. We'll talk about the messy middle, the missteps we've made, and then some of the rituals and tiny experiences that really helped us to make a shift. And these are the same patterns I see again and again in my work as a career coach. So today we're going to start at the very beginning, the signs, those small annoyances, the physical signs, that inner whisper that shows up long before there's ever a plan. And so in this first episode, Jen and I are going to share honestly and imperfectly about when we realized our paths were shifting, even though we couldn't see what was next. So if you're in that in-between space where nothing is technically wrong, but something feels off, you're probably not imagining it. It's probably that you're ready for your next chapter. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the signs and what they might be trying to tell you. Here's the episode. Hello and welcome. Today feels extra special because it marks the beginning of a brand new co-hosted series with my dear friend and colleague, the brilliant Jen Pestikas, leader of the Brave Women at Work books and community. Jen and I have both navigated big personal and professional transformations, and we realized that we wanted to have these conversations out loud to share our stories. And currently we have different perspectives. So I've been outside of the corporate world since the end of 2019. Jen is still inside the corporate world with many side hustles. And so today we're going to share different perspectives.
Yes, and Jen, thank you so much for having me on the show today. So over the next few episodes, we're going to explore the emotional, intuitive, and very human side of change, which if anybody knows me, they know I love change, and especially that in-between phase where your identity is shifting on the inside long before any changes are happening on the outside. We're going to weave in our own stories, our missteps, our signs, and the whispers that guided us out of corporate, in Jen Smith's case, and into something more aligned. I'm kind of in the in-between on my side. So you're going to see, again, those different perspectives.
Yes, thanks, Jen. And today we're going to start with the earliest signs. So we're going to talk about the clues that kind of nudge you or annoy you. I always say it was like a whisper. And for me, it eventually became pretty impossible for me to ignore. So let's get into it. So Jen, let's talk about some of the early signs for you when you kind of like some of these moments where you realized like something had to shift or change and it no longer really felt like you.
Yeah, so was really confusing. So for anyone that is in corporate, and I think you, Jen, will also align with this, like we are who we are, right? In corporate, we think that we're going to hit that gold star, we're going to get that corner office. And then all of a sudden I felt like malaligned. Like one of the things that kind of triggered our series is I'm like, Jen, I hate all of my clothes. Like I hate all of my suits. Like what is going on? So that was an early sign. And I think the other big one, which you said some of them are impossible to ignore, is my own burnout. So I had physical, mental, emotional, spiritual burnout, which was just impossible to ignore. So little ones and big ones. But the one that you said, hey, we've got to record something, was that I can't stand any of my suits anymore.
I had that exact same feeling where I literally took all my corporate clothes and put them in another closet. I couldn't even look at them. Like they just weren't me anymore. And I've had multiple conversations with folks where clothes, jewelry, just your overall look and feel is a sign that something isn't fitting, quote unquote, quite right anymore. So yeah, I remember that conversation you and I had in Chicago.
Yes.
And we started talking about that. And that's definitely a sign for folks to think about.
Yeah. So what about you, Jen? What was also like your first signal, maybe beyond clothes, that your path was shifting?
Yeah, there was a couple things. So the first one was that I literally just felt like I had so much more to give. There was something like in my day-to-day, it was fine at the time that I was leaving corporate, but I had so much more like on my heart that I like wanted to do in this world. And it was super messy. I didn't understand it. I felt confused myself, but that was something that just was like lingering all the time. And then the other piece that I knew something was shifting, and you probably can relate to this, Jen, is through all my different corporate roles, I always kind of like knew what was next. Like, okay, I want to go and do that type of HR next, or I really want to move into talent acquisition or whatever it was. Like I always had a next path. And at this point, I didn't see the next thing in corporate. And so that kind of was like, oh, maybe it's time to do something different. So those were a couple signals that I felt.
Yeah, and it is confusing. And I will tell anyone who's in this messy middle, it is a little annoying because you're like, why can't I just be satisfied? What's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. Your soul just may have a bigger dream.
Yeah, you're growing. It's a sign that you're growing. And I actually say this a lot, that it's kind of like when you have to repot a plant. So like your plant is growing out of its pot. And it's not that something's wrong with it. It's just growing and it needs a bigger space. It needs a different space. It needs more room. And that's kind of like what growth is in your career as well. So nothing's wrong with you. It's just a time to reconsider a new pot.
I love how you tie everything into like flourishing in the garden.
I love
like
nature.
Yeah, you know what? Every time I talk to you, I'm just so relaxed. So thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, so we're going to kind of shift into, we've touched on some of the first signs, and now we're going to be going into that somatic or like body signals, those body shifts. So Jen, what about you? So what did your body tell you before your mind could catch up? And was there a moment where you physically just felt real misalignment?
Yes. And it shows up for me in my breath. And you can probably relate to this, I know, as a breath work professional. It's super shallow breath. Like I literally I can't breathe. Like I can't catch my breath. And there was this moment, Jen, I'll never forget. I was actually sitting over there. I know this isn't video, but I was sitting right over there. And it was 7:15 in the morning before I was going to start my day. And I literally couldn't breathe. And in that moment, I just started writing down like everything I was grateful for, like all these things that I was grateful for in that moment. And my breath started to return and I was able to start my day. But that moment was like, whoa, like something is seriously misaligned at this point. Like you literally can't breathe. And it almost got to this point where I was like
kind of like grasping for air, you know? And so just knowing like what was ahead of me for the day. And so anyways, that's always a sign for me is when my breath starts to get shallow. What about for you?
Definitely the breath. And now that I have done a lot of breath work, I notice it in other women especially. So I can't tell you, Jen, like I am that weirdo. Like I tell people in corporate, I'm like, hey, you get a manager, leader, and a coach. I can't help it. You get a great deal with me.
How lucky.
I know. And like women will I will see them like not breathing. And I'm like, hey, can you take a breath? It looks like you're not breathing. And I know people think it's weird, but I'm actually doing them a service because they're not breathing. So to answer your question, breathing, breath, like the shallow breath, pain, I've always had as a kid, like painful stomach, like stomach pain. And for me also like just being tight everywhere. So if my muscles start getting tight, not just neck, but it's like back, even down to my legs, like everywhere, like my body, it almost feels like, what does Brene say? Like armoring up for a fight.
Yeah.
Those are some of the tell signs for me.
Yeah. And I just have to like put a pin in this for folks. Like, and Jen, you and I have learned this kind of the hard way, just going through everything that we've been through. But our bodies know something is off before our brains do. And so paying attention and noticing that, I don't know about you, but like when I was on autopilot, just like go, 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 I didn't even know that I wasn't breathing until that moment where I like literally couldn't breathe. And so I think it's just so important, like you as a leader, to point that out to other people, like, hey, take a breath, you're not breathing. And that's such a gift. But for everybody listening, pause and just notice like what is going on in your body. And that could be a real sign that something's misaligned. And maybe not that you have to make a whole huge jump or change, but maybe just aligning, you know, your energy with your work, or maybe aligning your schedule a little differently. It could be little changes too. It doesn't have to be a big leap. So food for thought.
Absolutely. And one last comment there is, I think that I just got really good at being logical and disembodying myself. So if anyone's had like moments where they felt like they were hovering over their body, if it was like super stressful, people can, I mean, I was living that way. So I think it's like using the breath to get back into your body and reminding your mind like, oh, I'm just not a walking mind. I actually have a body too.
I mean, it sounds funny, but it's true. It really is true. Like, hey, we don't have to, you know, we don't have to be the mind outside the body. We are one human.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that misalignment in terms of kind of like identity and goals. So when did you start noticing that maybe some of the goals that once energized you maybe were feeling a little flat?
Yeah. So I think what you were saying earlier, like the end of the road, right? Like where I'm not, okay, so I always joke about this. So like in work years, I've worked so hard, and so many of our listeners, I think jointly in our communities will get this. Like I'm in my late 40s, but in like work dog years, I feel like I'm 70. So like I literally feel like there's nothing else. So like I tell my husband, I'm like, I need to like eventually retire out of corporate. He's like, you're in your late 40s. I go, not really. And so I think there's the end of the road piece. And like you said earlier, that other things are making me more excited. And then just finishing off somatically, like I feel like righteous anger building, like frustration, where I'm like, why am I frustrated? Oh, it's because my soul wants me to do something different.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Jen, the dog years. The corporate dog years, I think is like, so dog years are 7, right? I think corporate dog years are 14.
I know. It's like, I'm 185 in corporate dog years.
But it's a thing. It really is a thing. And one of the things, actually, now that I'm going to say, shout out to my sister, Kim, who brought this up recently with me, is previously I've talked about like the corporate athlete, where professional athletes do not perform 365 days a year. In corporate, you are expected to perform 365 days a year. Athletes have seasons, and they're usually a few months, you know, and then they have time to rest and recover. And we in corporate, we just don't give ourselves that time and space to recover. So anyways, just thought I'd bring that into the picture here.
Okay, so I have to do a shameless plug. Jen's got a calendar that's coming out or is going to be out by the time of this podcast release. And talk about seasons. It's beautiful. It is just so well curated and crafted. So if you're looking for a seasonal planner, I'm just going to shout out to my friend Jen on her planner. So yeah, we'll link it in the show notes on both sides for both of our podcasts.
Amazing. Thank you, Jen. It is beautiful. The paper's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I saw it everybody before we recorded. I'm like, dang, this is so pretty. Everybody, go get one. So
it'll help.
Yes, it will help. So Jen, for you, did you feel any resentment towards things that used to light you up? And what did those resentment, those little micro or maybe more macro resentments, what did they tell you about who you were becoming?
Yes. You're talking about that frustration, things that normally wouldn't frustrate me, like a Teams ping. Normally, that's fine. I would be so mad that someone interrupted me. I was wait. I would just literally put a fire inside me. I'm like, why did they, So it started to get really frustrating. There was a lot of resentment towards stuff that never used to bother me before. And there's something that I had heard in the past where it's called gratitude shaming. So I was literally I felt so guilty for wanting something different and wanting something more. So I was literally shaming myself for wanting something different or something more, where again, that's a sign of growth. So this resentment towards stuff, the resentment towards myself for wanting more, all of that started to just add up. And I had to get radically honest with myself about what was going on. That Teams ping from someone on my team, it's not their fault they were asking a question. It's totally normal in the world of work to ask questions like that. So it just started to all add up, and I needed to just pause and figure out what was going to be next.
Yeah, absolutely. So that whole pause, let's talk about the next piece, which is that moment. So it was for you. You talked about, the room, people can't see it. She's got this beautiful room behind her and she couldn't breathe. So was that the moment, or was there a symbolic moment or that realization that you were shedding an old version of yourself?
Yeah, thanks for this question. So there was a couple different moments. So definitely that one where I couldn't catch my breath. But I'll never forget this. I was on vacation with my husband. We were in the Finger Lakes, one of my favorite places on this earth. And I was reading the book called Die Empty by Todd Henry. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's terrible.
It's in my Amazon. It's an absolute, I think you told me, but it's in my queue. So I got to go get it now.
Yes, you should definitely get it. And the whole perspective of this book is, are you getting everything out of you before you pass on? So I felt like I had so much more to give, and it was just stuck inside me. And I was like, I don't even know if I have tomorrow at this point. So I need to get this stuff out of me. So you're going to die empty, meaning all your creativity, all your love, everything that's inside of you is going to come out before you pass on. And that was such a defining moment for me. I was like, no regrets. It's time. Let's do this. So definitely we'll put a plug in the show notes for the book Die Empty by Todd Henry for sure. How about you, Jen? So was there a moment where you just had to make a change, or you knew something needed to be different?
So so for those in corporate, this is why it is kind of a cool thing, is that I'm in a molting period right now. And so the one thing I will tell you, and I don't know, Jen, how long yours was, we want to make sure we normalize that not everyone just literally swan dives off of a cliff, right? And goes hey, yeah, done, I'm out, right? Some people do, right? And God bless, that you do that. But it can be a protracted, it can be painful. It can be hard, and it's not for the faint of heart. So I'm in that process right now. And there are a lot of lessons and learning. So I would say it's nothing in particular. I guess we'll catch up when I'm on the other side of this long learning. But I just wanted to normalize that it is okay if it takes a while or even a long time to get to the other side.
Yes, yes, and yes. It was over 10 years for me. It literally was. It took a while and a lot of missteps and trials and all the things before I actually made the change. So thank you for sharing that.
And we've mentioned a lot, which I think is lovely at this time of year as we're recording, the idea of gratitude. So I know we talk about we're kind of being snarky to corporate, right? But there's also lessons, right? So how did you reconcile that idea of gratitude for your career, right? but also knowing that it wasn't yours to carry any longer.
Oh my gosh. Yes. This is such a thing because I was so grateful. And that's part of the reason I stayed for as long as I did, because I felt so grateful for the opportunities that I was given. And I learned so much. So Jen, you know this, early in my career, I started as a supervisor in a potato chip factory and worked the night shift, but I learned so much from those experiences. So I was super grateful. Then I started when I didn't see that path ahead of me anymore. And I just came to this realization that I can be grateful for everything that I've had in my career that brought me up to this point. And I came to this realization that that part of my life and career was complete. So this word complete felt so good for me. It wasn't like I was quitting or I was running away from something. That part of my life was complete and it was time to move and do something different. And so that's really how it came together for me.
And I think the other piece for our corporate gals that are still you're still in it. It can be different for you, right? Like complete can mean I need to move companies. I need to move roles. I need to build a business like, Jen Smith, and I have my side hustles, right? Like you need to explore what complete means for you.
Yes, 100%. It could be a lot of different things. And even micro movements like we were talking about before, adjusting schedule, adjusting energy, whatever that is. So Jen, how about you? So guilt, confusion, clarity, all three, like tell me about where your head is with transformation.
Definitely all three. It is messy. You've used the word messy once, at least in the show, right? So I think I'm in that messy middle. And that's why it's so important to be doing this in real time, is that I don't have as much guilt, but it is confusion. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like I want to be here, but then no, I want to be here. And all I know is, and we're going to talk a little bit more, and I think a future show here about like the energy piece. All I know is that when I have a book come out in the world, I just feel so much joy. And every time I publish a podcast, I'm like, yes, like I'm doing the good work. And so what I'm going to say is I'm just going to go follow my joy.
Yes. And what you're explaining there to me is sounding like that head heart. That push and pull from your head is like the logic, got to do this, but your heart is like the joy and seeing the difference in that and just hearing you talk about the difference in your energy of, from the follow the joy, follow your heart for sure. So,
absolutely. Yes.
So lovely. Now, let's talk about, so there's another thing that I hear a lot of times with clients that are making changes, that they have this like resistance and they feel like it's a setback, but in my mind, it's really an invitation. So what are your thoughts on that? It's like an invitation to upgrade. So just any thoughts on that?
So let's normalize this too. So you may feel that like annoying pull or that joyful pull and be confused, or you, like we talked about, guilt or excited or whatever, and all of that's okay. And then you may go back to safety and feel like it's a setback, or you may take a different job and feel like it's not right and feel like it's a setback because your heart is pulling you in a different direction. I actually used to think that was quote unquote failure, being like that recovering perfectionist. It's not. It's a detour that your soul needs for more learning. So you have to trust the process. Jen said hers is 10 years. I'm in the middle of a lengthy transformation, right? So it isn't going to be for the faint of heart, and it may not be short. And so it's not a setback. It's actually just a place of learning so you can get to the new place whenever or wherever that will be.
I love that. I got chills when you said it was a detour. It was just a detour for more learning, which is true. Sometimes I talk about your career being like the road trip of a lifetime. And sometimes you're going to have detours. Sometimes you're going to follow the scenic route. There's going to be different starts and stops. You're going to run out of gas sometimes. Like that's totally. You have to ask for directions at times. Like that's really just what it's about. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Yeah. So Jen, on your side, we've also mentioned on trust. So what helps you trust that next version of you, right, is going to be that wiser one, that the one is trying to stay safe, even if it is a detour?
Yes. So my biggest thing is no regrets. I do not want to live a life of regret. And so I always say, just try it. Like, with starting Flourish Careers, I said I was going to give myself 1 year. Now that 1 year was 2020 and I'm still here. You can make it through that. You can make it through anything, but just give yourself a chance, I guess, is really what it was. Give yourself a chance, follow your heart. And someone said to me recently, like, no one tells you to follow your mind. They all tell you to follow your heart. So just
true.
Right? So just give yourself a chance. That's what I've always told myself. Like, just give yourself a chance. You can always go back. It's like you can always go back. And so that's kind of where my head has been throughout.
Mm. Okay, so I will say, if anyone's like, oh, wow, you're listening in and you're thinking, oh, yeah, that's me. Or I'm this, like, oh, yes, I'm, clued in. They know what's happening inside of me. Please know. And we say this with our hearts, that the in-between is not a mistake. It is a message that we hope you follow. And that we're also just here to tell you and encourage you that you are not lost. You are in the process of becoming. You are not behind. You are simply upgrading.
Yes, I love that. I love the upgrade and the elevate. That's really what the new pot you're growing. And so, and that's, this is it. That's the season of stretching and shedding and surrendering. And it's really a sacred moment. So I know, Jen, you are honored to walk alongside all of our listeners. And I know I am as folks navigate this. So that's going to bring this episode to a close. And I want to share, just over the next few episodes, we're going to dive a little deeper into the heart of transformation. So we'll talk about the emotional side of letting go, redefining success in a more heart-led way. We'll talk about community, because that's been a key aspect, I think, for both of us. Mm-hmm. And then wrap up with some practical steps to move through this in-between with more clarity and confidence, and especially compassion for yourself.
Well, I just want to say and wrap this up by saying we can't wait to continue this conversation with you, and we'll see you in the next episode.